Pearls of Wisdom by Pearl Operational Design, videos where we talk about everything operations. And in our past videos, we've been defining what are the different elements or components of your operations design. We talked about technology, we talked about data, we talked about process, and today we are going to talk about people, which is very interesting. What I think are the most critical elements of an operational design. And it's very interesting that we're talking about this where we are having and we're witnessing massive layoffs of people from many of the big tech companies, which can bring to mind many questions, as in how exactly were you scaling your operations? And with regards to people and the act of scaling your operations, that is the biggest component. But I will talk about people not just on their own, but also in the context of organizational culture. So you decide that you want to grow your organization, and first thing many people think about is, okay, we need to hire more people. People are coming with skill sets, people are coming with competencies, people are coming with knowledge, people may even be coming with some templates that they may have gotten from their previous organizations. We won't talk about that. But people are also coming with lived experiences. And I really want to highlight that because lived experiences can translate into values. And how I simply, there are many complicated definitions out there of organization culture, but I simply look at it as it is a manifestation of beliefs and values. Now, I'm not talking about espoused values. I've worked and seen organizations that claim to do certain things, but the lived experience of people is not reflective of what they claim are their values. Case in point, I worked with a niche consulting company and we were doing cultural analysis. And one of the leaders that we talked about, because as we hear in organization culture, that leaderships and leaders tend to have a very large influence on it, because of course they are the ones that incentivize, whether through monetary incentives or whether through promotions or visibility. They're the ones that will incentivize people. So how they behave and their intentional or unintentional actions definitely plays into it. So we were talking to the leaders before we do the analysis, and one leader said, well, I have an open door policy. What does that mean to you actually? Put it in the comments. Just let me know, what exactly does an open door policy translate to you in terms of your belief? But our belief is that, well, I'm here. You can approach me, you can come to me, I'm open. Well, after we did the analysis of the responses of people in this individual's organizations, it really didn't matter. This person could have been sitting in an open field. No one was going to come to them. So this is what I mean by espoused, because you can say certain things, but is that the lived experience of your staff? If I sat and I observed them, is that what I will think their behavior aligns with? So this is why I talk about organization culture, because people exist in an organization where there is an organization culture. And people lend themselves very much or align themselves very much to your organization culture. So why am I talking about people and culture? Why am I twinning them together? It seems obvious. This is, I don't think, anything new to anyone. The reason I'm talking about this as a key component of the operational design is because I've just encountered an organization which I, historically, when they first started, I thought, you know what? They're different. I can see their organization values. It's different from any of the others. And then this organization started to grow, and read that as scale. And while I don't know the ins and outs, but what I've experienced now is a very different organization, an organization that really starts to resemble all of their competitors out there. So I sat with one of my HR colleagues, and we were pondering, why does this happen? Why is it when organizations start to scale, first thing they think of is we need people, which is normally very true. Why is it that after a while, those values that manifest, that really speak to their uniqueness, starts to somehow dissolve, and they begin to look like every other type of organization out there. We both came to the same conclusion. Perhaps you're not leading with culture. So as I mentioned before, people come into your organization and they come with lived experience. If you don't lead with culture and say, hey, you know what? That lived experience you have from another organization, those values that you're bringing from another organization actually don't align with us. This is how we do things. If that is allowed to permeate those external or lived experiences from other organizations that start to permeate and start to reflect themselves in your policies, in your practices, in the way people show up, and starts to minimize the uniqueness of the values that led the organization to being seen as doing things differently, you do begin to look like all the organizations out there. Because in scaling, in bringing on people, the very, very critical component of your operations design, you did not always lead with culture. So if it's one thing that you take away from this video today, is people are critical to your operational design. People bring lived experiences, people have values, and they need to fit. So I know when I talk about fit, and I was recently having a conversation and someone was like, what do you mean by fit? For me, fit is that you are actually leading with your organization culture. Because as one of my colleagues had brought up to me when I talked about the fact that I was going to be speaking to this topic, is if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And remember, in your operational design, standing for something is standing for your values and the beliefs that your staff or your people have about how they experience the organization. Hopefully you got something from this. Hopefully you are, if it's your first time, you go back to our other videos and listen. But as I always encourage you, if you learned something from these videos, please share the knowledge. Thank you.